Indeed you are, Wolfie. Good evening and welcome to the studio, and anybody else that's watching as well. So Wolfie, how's world domination going? Right, I am going to do, well, I'm going to try, let's see if we can finish this bracelet tonight. Kind of, it would be nice to finish. How long is it? It's 5.5 inches. An inch and a half in the stream. Maybe we won't finish in this stream. The cat has been on the desk here and the rings are all over the place. I've been scattering rings. I don't know which cat it is, but one of them has. As usual, going great. Well, that's good. I've been busy. Oh well, if anybody follows me on Twitter will know I've been busy uploading videos, getting some of the old archive. I've still got something like about 500 videos to upload. Hello. Junior's on the floor, just down there. But he's got his paws tucked up and under, so I'm not going to pick him up. I'm not going to disturb him. Right, well, unfortunately, we're back to closing rings. I'm looking at this small pile I've got here and thinking, I'm not sure there's enough there to finish an inch and a half. I mean, that's a pile of open rings, and this is a pile of rings I've got to close, and there does not look like an inch and a half of rings there. But you never know, it always surprises me. So not very many left to close though. Well, not exactly. I mean, it does take something like about sort of 15 minutes or so in order to actually upload a video. So, and I did take a couple of hours off doing it whilst I went out and did some gardening today, or garden work. Wasn't exactly gardening, but garden work. Having got YouTube actually doing a tweet, and I can't work out how to stop it. But eventually it will get to the point where there is only one per day of that, or ish, and that'll be because I'm uploading yesterday's Twitch archive. Actually, I am trying to find time also to actually create a couple of, I was going to describe them as how-to videos, not exactly how-to, but exclusive for, well, I was about to say exclusive for YouTube. That's not necessarily true, because I could upload them onto Twitch as well. But for the pyrography, for those people like I was a while ago looking to try out pyrography, so I was going to do one or a few videos explaining what pyrography is and how to do it and what tools you need and why you might choose any particular tool. So if anybody's like I was a couple of years ago looking for that sort of help, then they will hopefully be able to find some of it. Well, I'm going to say, was it now? It's been a warm day here, and the reason I mention that is it's apparently the forecast for the UK is sub-zero temperatures tonight, and the other reason that comes to mind is because it's rather warm here in the studio. I'm feeling rather warm, yeah, it's only 23 degrees. English weather, it's weird stuff. It can be cool in the studio and feel hot, and it can be hot in the studio and feel cool. I don't know if that's a funny characteristic of the studio here or what. You are now updating the English in the entire game whilst watching. Can you? Okay. You're gonna finish off your Kickstarter. Oh, that's well. So let me know what it is. I might. I might contribute. I kind of don't really look at Kickstarter these days. There's I used to for a while, and I have backed a few things, and I think there's probably a couple of things which have failed that I've backed on there, and one which probably is going to fail, I think, is the best way of describing it. They're claiming they're going to still try and deliver, but I'm not altogether certain of that. We'll just have to wait and see. But a lot of time these days on Kickstarter, I think there's nothing that really seems that. If something's really cheap on Kickstarter, you're telling me I shouldn't? Depends on the amounts. Depends on the amounts, to be honest. As I say, usually on Kickstarter these days, I don't bother. If it's really cheap, that probably means, unless there's something about the particular thing that they're making, some particular believable new approach, which there usually isn't. If I'm looking at something and going, wow, that's really cheap, it probably means it's going to fail. It really is still a case on Kickstarter of being if it seems cheap, too cheap, it probably is too cheap, and it probably isn't going to work, and you're going to lose money. So I kind of these days go, you know what, I'll just wait and see what happens, and I'll pay full price when it comes out. Quite likely by then there'll be another I'm doing this off screen, aren't I? Another alternative, or there'll be something, somebody doing something slightly different. Because a lot of the time with stuff I see on Kickstarter, it's if I go for something on Kickstarter, it's been kind of just a toy to play with. Like the 3D pen. It's around here somewhere. Here we go. I mean, this was a thing on Kickstarter. 3D pen. This one uses ultraviolet setting liquid. I don't know if it's an epoxy, but it's a liquid which there's an ultraviolet light on the end which sets the liquid as it comes out, so you can make three-dimensional stuff on it. I've played with it a little bit, not played with it a lot. I've got a load of stuff for it, so I might as well play with it, but I just haven't bothered. Bit of a toy, really. They're not as easy to use as they you might think, and it's one of those things that now that I've played with it, I wouldn't have got one in the first place if I'd have been able to play with it beforehand. Oh, I know you're doing it. there is a yeah. I mean, you're doing it for that particular purpose. I mean, and for that reason, I can understand that reason, you know, and it's to all intents and purposes, were I to have contributed to that, it would be very much like giving you a tip on stream. Yeah, it's that sort of thing. More than anything else, I'm not particularly. I wouldn't be particularly expecting anything out of it at all. But I'm just general in terms of the sort of the Kickstarters, and I tend not to. Contribute to games. So I think I've contributed. Now I've backed about 4 games, of which 2, one didn't make its reserve, and another one actually closed. They closed and refunded the money, as they decided, you know, for whatever reason, that they weren't going to take it forward. One was Cyan Games with their latest game, which they delivered a little bit late, but they delivered. Another one is called Z, which is still, I don't think is due for delivery until, it's probably going to be late, but we're supposed to be about Christmas this year, so. But I'm kind of very particular about games. I guess I just have more of an interest in technology, and partly because I won't say I understand technology, but I have more of an idea about delivering technology, and therefore, you know, looking at what they're doing or what they've done or what they're saying, and have a better idea of whether I believe them or not. There's 2 or 3 crowdfunding platforms now, I think. I'm trying to think what the other one is, but I don't usually. I have backed one thing on the other platform, but I don't generally go for the other platform, because most of the projects that are on it are, you pay the money whether they get their reserve or not, which means that, you know, you've lost if they don't get enough money to complete the project, you've lost your money, and they get to keep it, even if they're sort of like $1 short of their total. And I kind of don't really like that, so I tend not to back projects like that don't use a thing. Yeah, and alright, daft as it sounds, Wolfie, Incredible Wolfie, that would be one reason why would be a positive. You know, you're going to deliver it, come what may, and, you know, providing you're not extremely over. Exaggerate your claims as to the game itself, then that's kind of fine. Also, I mean, it's a reputational thing as well, you know, because let's say if you do put the Kickstarter up, some people do contribute, and you deliver what you said you're going to deliver, then the next time you've got a better reputation. You know, it's your second time, you've got the track record of delivering, so people become a little bit more confident in your ability to do what you're saying you're going to do. Just think, not quite sure. It's not that long ago in terms of weeks now, is it, that you weren't sure you were actually going to get the RPG toolkit? And here you are developing a game which you are going to release, and not only that, you're seeking some A level of funding on Kickstarter for the game. That's not bad going from a I'm not sure I want to spend this money on RPG Maker, and here you are, sort of going to a professional level, shall we say? You promised to deliver a game, yeah. You promise, yeah. So my sense of humour kicks in at that point and goes, you're promising to deliver a game. It might be whatever you can get off of Humble Bundle at the time, but you'll deliver something. Yeah. Well, I said it before, but either, you know, I'll say it again. I wish you luck in doing it. You know, you've at this stage you said you're going to deliver something. You know, you keep giving me an update, and I can quite easily believe that you will deliver something. I think you may end up with the difficulty of not knowing when to stop and actually deliver something. A lot of people have that sort of issue, but you know, you keep posting progress here, so I can quite easily believe it. Now then, I'm just going to finish closing these last few rings, and then I'm going to weave. I started at the start of this stream. I started off with what looked like a relatively large pile of rings, and whilst I've been just talking like this, I've not been particularly taking notice of what I've done, and I've only got about half a dozen rings left to do out of the pile. Don't have to go fast sometimes when you distract yourself. So, yes, the clock is right. I was just thinking, last night the UK switched to Greenwich Mean Time. We put our clocks back an hour. And I suddenly just realised then that, well, I kind of just realised then that the computer has changed its clock, which of course it does. It does it every year, and I shouldn't be surprised because I know it does it. And but I was just checking in and thinking I've forgotten to change the computer clock, and I hadn't. Just about every clock in the house now updates itself, apart from 3. There are 3 clocks that don't. Although, having said that, I'm probably likely in the next couple of days going to come across another one that I've forgotten somewhere. Right, that's all the rings I've got there close. So let's weave. You see, when I finish it, I've just picked this up and I know exactly where I'm going to start. Even though I didn't put my wire in, I completely forgot. I've got these 4 starter rings, which are the ones that on a couple of or so streams ago I couldn't understand where they were. because they weren't where they're supposed to be. Nope, that's an open ring. I'm concentrating on this and not looking at chat again. I should have a platform. Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of different ways of doing that. I mean, obviously Kickstarter itself has that has the ability to put updates on there. But there's all the usual social media things, Facebook pages, Twitter. To start with, YouTube videos, video logs of things. So plenty of outlets for keeping people informed of things, and yes, it does add to the credibility. Your dad told you to be home at 3 weeks because you said about to 3. Okay. Well. I'm going to say it was sort of had some interesting sort of discussions on time with Lady Zara last night. It kind of feels weird, so if, I have in the past stayed up through the time change, and I used to have at least a couple of clocks that were controlled by what's called MSF, the time standard, which used to be broadcast out of Rugby in the UK. It isn't anymore. I can't remember where it's broadcast from now. But I used to stay up through a couple of times. I stayed up through the time change just because it's fascinating to watch the clock go. It went back like this time, so it would go 1:58, 1:59, 1 o'clock, and then sort of it was it just carries on from normal from then. And when we switch to British summertime, it does the opposite. It goes 12:59, 2 o'clock, and you miss the whole hour. And so it's kind of weird if you've got the self-correcting clocks, the radio clocks, or even the computer clocks. I was kind of thinking, well, how do you set an alarm when the clocks go back? How do you set an alarm for the second hour? So if you wanted to get up at 1:30, let's say you were going to go on holiday somewhere, you to get up at 1:30. But the second 1:30, kind of like, how do you set an alarm on a self-correcting clock for the second 1:30 and not to be woken up on the first one? And it's kind of, it's quite a difficult thing really if you think about it, because you can't set it for an hour later because the clock would do it at the new 2:30. So all these self-correcting clocks actually make it really hard to set an alarm for that 1 hour. And it's like when the clocks go forward, you can't set anything for like 1:30 because it goes 1 o'clock, 12:59, 2 o'clock, and completely skips it. So the moral of that is, don't book a holiday where you need to get up when the clocks change. Just a weird sort of thing, just crossed my mind is how do you do it? And with sort of the digital assistants, you know, like the Google Home and the Amazon Dot and things, we worked out you could get around the problem with those, because instead of setting an alarm for a time, you set an alarm for, you know, 3 hours or something like that, and that then would give you what you intended. But the unintentional problems that you get when technology gets clever. Mind blown. Well, it's just, I don't know, I mean, it's just, it was literally sort of a very weird thought in a way, but it kind of, it's kind of quite applicable, isn't it, as to how do you set an alarm for that time period? Because, you know, if you want to sort of go to bed early or something and then get up in that time period, it's sort of potentially quite difficult. You might have to resort to all the to sort of ancient technology, you know, like a wind-up clock. Ooh, they sort of the anachronism of it, a wind-up clock. One that doesn't change its time, where you have to twiddle something to make the time change. Wow, you know, ancient history. Kind of like one of those unintentional consequences, you know, of things. Self-correcting clocks seem like a fantastic idea until you need to get up at that one particular time. Of course, that's what they call an edge case, but I'm sure it happens. Right. Come along, Rings. You are going to go where I want you to go tonight. I'm going to have a good go at using all of these rings. Yet another weird thought crosses my mind. I don't know what it is about streaming that causes weird thoughts to cross my mind, but I was just thinking then, when the clocks change, and it suddenly becomes 2 o'clock, or it suddenly goes back to being 1 o'clock, you know, sort of Groundhog Day type thing, we've suddenly got an hour to live again. In either of those cases, is it time travelling? But then I thought, but we all travel in time anyway. You know, philosophy and Doctor Who stuff, we all travel in time. It just happened to all travel in the same direction at real time. Time travellers. Just not what everybody else might think of as being a time traveller. Yesterday New Yorkshire stream is... That's satisfying, isn't it? Somebody else goes, you know, this is a terrible card deck in this particular, whatever it is. You know, it's a terrible gun. It's a terrible hand. It's a terrible deck of cards. It's a terrible whatever. And you pick it up and go, what's wrong with this? And you're saying there 78% win ratio. That's not bad going. It kind of more. It rather says something more about the player than the cards, doesn't it? And of course, you've always got your competitor, and it's who you compete against as well, and what they've got, I guess, as well. You know, which contributes to it, but it still kind of says more about the player than the cards. It's a bit like there's a English-wise at least there is a saying which is a bad workman blames the tools, and a good workman buys good tools, and that's kind of like the same thing, isn't it, with what you've just said there. If somebody can't play a game very well, it doesn't matter what they've got in terms of card decks. Unless they happen to have the BFG of cards, you know, it's yeah, well, that's even better. Even better like that. Right. Partly that sort of old proverb of a bad workman blames the tools is kind of it's not the reason why when I buy tools I buy good tools. It's partly the reason why when I start some new craft that I've not done before, you know, whether it's chainmail or whether it's pyrography or anything really, one of the things I take quite good care to do is to get well, usually a kit of parts of some kind, but is to get a good quality tools or tool, you know, not lots of them, but you know, like a chisel or a couple of chisels, because that way I know if I'm not very good at it, it's me that's not very good at it, not the fact that I'm using bad tools. Partly I have no idea what's a good or a bad tool at that point, but you know, I don't blame the tools anyway, you know, but there's no possibility of blaming the tools. If you've got some good tools and you can't use them, then it's your fault. If the thing comes out badly, then it's your fault, not the tools. Whereas if you buy tools that are of indeterminate quality, shall we say, or cheap tools that you don't know the quality of, then you're always wondering, you know, that came out bad. Is it me that's bad, or is it the fact that, you know, the tools didn't help? You see, I'm phrasing that because I don't want to say bad tools, but the tool quality didn't assist you. You know, it might be blunt. You know, if I'm talking about chisels, for example, I'll be talking about blunt chisels. You know, they don't assist you. You can use blunt chisels, sort of, kind of, And I guess the better skill you've got, the better you're able to cope with the lower quality tools. But that sort of a bad workman blames the tools is kind of that sort of thing. You know, I don't want to be wondering whether it's the tools. So I do spend a little bit of money when I do these things, and I buy things which have a reasonable sort of quality. I'm kind of not quite the same, but it's kind of like these against these pliers that are here. These actually aren't a bad quality, and they're kind of different, but these were on the cheaper end, and one of the issues with these was the spring clasps, the spring that makes them open. You can see one of them is bent back here specifically because they were too strong. You couldn't actually close them with both of these in position, so I had to modify the tools. Whereas this is really nice. These have got a nice set of handles on, so your hands don't get tired, and if your hands get tired because you're clasping things too hard, you tend to shake, which is not very good when you're trying to feed rings and things. This isn't a great idea of quality of tools. The carving stuff I've got is actually better, because I do actually have some chisels that Lady Zara bought me as a present after I started carving, and unfortunately they weren't great. They're actually blunt, and I don't mean not very sharp, I mean blunt, and yet they were sold in a craft shop as carving tools you had to carve with. And if you've got a beginner who had no idea trying to use these things, they were actually, I consider them dangerous because they were that blunt, and they're not kind of as I say, they weren't actually sort of not very sharp. They were literally blunt. They didn't cut wood at all, and I still got them because they were a present, and I intend to try my best at some point, because I've got some whetstones. In fact, I got the whetstones specifically to try and sharpen these chisels, because I'd like to at least be able to try and use them. But you know, as a beginner who didn't know what they were doing and got some of those, would find themselves ripping wood and splitting it and all sorts of things, and getting a terrible result. Because of the tools, well, the poor quality tools, but they wouldn't know. And kind of, you know, they bought them from a craft shop. You might expect the craft shop to have sold a decent tools, and so they'd be thinking that they weren't really very good at it, and it might well be that they'd be a brilliant carver if they had decent tools, which is kind of a pity because it would put people off. Now started this stream obviously with closing up all these rings and got through it really quickly. I'm here weaving these rings in. Don't appear to be making any mistakes, and I appear to be doing it quite quickly. I'm kind of wondering when it's going to go wrong. What's going to happen? Something is going to go wrong. It can't go this smoothly. Murphy has to be around somewhere. Actually, I don't know if Murphy is an English or a European construct or something that's known worldwide. Yeah, I think In the field of human endeavour, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, is Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law, very similar to Sod's Law, which I can't actually define at the moment because I can't remember the exact definition of it. Very close. And I forgot to put a ring in, so I will put it in by hand. So, talking about making mistakes, I just made one. So Murphy was around. Now last night's stream we actually had a person in chat that was also doing chainmail, which was quite fascinating, and he actually showed me a picture of a weave that looked really interesting to do. And I haven't investigated it yet, but I have made a note of it, and it was kind of the weave pattern looked interesting enough that once I finish this I was going to do some pyrography, but I keep looking for a use for these niobium rings. I've got a couple of colours here, and the picture that I got shown was looked so interesting, and I might actually have a go at that particular weave with those niobium rings before I actually move on to the pyrography, but I'm not sure. We shall see. Still not quite sure about what to do in terms of a pyrographic image. I have been thinking about doing something. I mean, I think was it games have just been launched. Destiny 2, for example, or Wolfenstein have just been launched. I was kind of thinking maybe pulling a character out of one of those and maybe doing a pyrographic portrait of one of the characters. Not quite sure. Yeah. He says, I'm trying to think what's in Destiny 2, because I don't play the game. I've watched it, but I don't play it. Oh yes, I remember. Come on, rings. Yeah, right. You're trying to be like that, are you? You're not going to succeed. You will go where I want you to go. I think I'll get to the end of this row and I'll see just how long it is. It won't grow very much, but it just seemed to have it's going so smoothly, tempting fate, that I just want to see how much I've done. I think we started with 1.5 inches to go to get it to 7 inches, and I'm just kind of curious as to how close I've got. Actually, thinking about it, 7 inches, I probably want to go to 6.5, and then the last last ½ inch used to just bring it down to a point on both ends, so that I can then put a clasp on the end, which will be ½ inch, so make up the 7.5 inch bracelet. So what is that? 6 1/4. That's we've motored. 6 1/4 inches. It was 5.5, and in just slightly around an hour, we've done an inch, and yeah, almost an inch. Wow, it is motoring. So what would that be? It's about another 3 rows. 1, 2, yeah, about another 3 rows. We'll take it to 6.5, and if I then bring that down to 3, and down to 2, and down to then just the 1, that'd be another 3 rows. So that an inch seems to be about 6 rows. He says, trying to see it. Got something pointy. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 rows for ½ inch. So another 3 rows will make this 6. That would be so I want probably another 4 rows, maybe, before I bring it down. No. I've got to put one on each end, don't I? So that's 6 rows. And I said there's what? 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, another 3 rows, and then we'll bring it down to a point and do the same on the other side. Yeah, okay, no problem, Wolfie. You carry on lurking. I'm almost lurking here, just sort of. Tonight just does not seem to be a very. I don't seem to be as vocal tonight as I often am. In fact, it seems to be rather a quiet night on Twitch. Why, yes, you go through there, thank you. What's this say? Yeah. My stream deck is telling me not very many people are watching. In fact, it's saying precisely 2 people are watching. And Twitch isn't going to tell me who they are. Yeah, failed to load viewer list. Okay. I haven't yet worked out what are the busy or the quiet nights. Saturday night actually does seem at the moment to be one of the busiest nights on Twitch as a broadcaster. The number of people watching, it does seem to be more on a Saturday night at the moment, which sort of surprises me a little bit. And Sunday doesn't seem to be always very, but then, yeah, you know, in a week or so's time, it could be completely different. In fact, summer's completely different from winter. There's always a lot more viewers in winter than there is in summer. That's the European winter, by the way. So around the calendar months of sort of November, December, January, February. And then it drops off again. Can't get hold of that ring. Pliers just keep slipping off. Is that enough to hold it? Okay, let's try and put a ring on and find out. So I said I was going to put so many more rows on, and I can't actually remember. I know how many I said, 3 more rows, but I can't actually remember if this is row 1 or row 2. So I'm going to assume it's row 1. If it's a bit over length, it's not really a problem. Since this will be, if I put this one up for sale, it'll be at whatever length it is. Usually I make bracelets to the size people want them. This being a speculative sort of just try it and see, it won't be a cheap bracelet by any means, because there's lots of hours to build it. But it will be at the length it is. Because even whilst generally speaking you can adjust the lengths of bracelets, I mean it's after all it's just a, you know, take a few rings out or put a few rings in. But with things like this where we're going to bring it to a point, you know, taking a few rows out or a few rings out means sort of dismantling the point and rebuilding it, which is sort of half a dozen rows in total, which is quite a bit of work. You know I've nearly finished, don't you, rings? That's why you're being awkward. All tangled up! Come on, untangle. Patience is required. That's the frustrating bit with rings, when they get tangled. Especially when they're open. And they should in theory untangle really easily, because you should just get hold of it and shake it and they'll drop out, but they don't. So this I'm counting as my second row. I'll do a third row, then I'll reduce the size, which in this particular case is quite a relatively simple exercise. I just leave the ring on each end off. So in this particular case, instead of putting on the next row, instead of putting 2 rings on this like I'm going to do now, I'll only put 1. So we're getting closer all the time to finishing this. Now then I've got to remember where my sterling silver clasps are, because I'll be putting a sterling silver clasp on this. Interestingly, I haven't yet seen aluminium clasps. Which kind of would be an obvious, seems like an obvious thing to have for aluminium bracelets or aluminium anodised aluminium, is that you don't seem to be able to get anodised aluminium clasps. Not that I've seen anywhere. And it kind of would be nice to get them the same, you know, the same colours as the rings that you can get in the same, you know, same range. So if you had an orange bracelet, you could have an orange clasp on it. in anodised aluminium. You can get some that are kind of like plastic coated, but then they have a different sort of look to them. So if there's anybody out there, so that's the third row, now let's bring this down in size. If there's anybody out there that does happen to know that it's possible too, so I have to have a look in the ring law in the States and see whether they do them. But I was going to say, if anybody out there happens to know that it is possible to get anodised aluminium clasps, so the lobster claw type clasps, or even the bolt rings I suppose, let me know, because I'd kind of like to be able to do it. So instead of putting 2 on, I put 1 on. Which goes over there, and I use that to join on to the next one. 1. Okay, awkward rings again. I know I'm nearly finished, and you're not going to frustrate me at this point. I'm going to finish it without throwing it anywhere. Not that I usually throw these things anyway, but I have been known in the past to just put it down very carefully on the desk, walk away and say, that's it for today. Usually though, that's been something like a half Persian, either a 3-in-1 or a 4-in-1, before I learnt the trick of how to start those. I have before now spent an hour or two on the first 2 or 3 rings of those particular weaves, and then gone, that's it, I'm not going to touch that for a little while. So that's that. Oh, actually it comes down quicker than I thought. It's come down in 2 rows, not 3. I miscounted, never mind. So that's the ring onto which I would put a clasp. Well, I'll fasten a clasp on using an additional ring. I won't put the clasp directly onto this ring. So I'll just measure that, and then we'll have a look at what's needed on the other end. So we are what? That's at that out of the way. So I want probably another 3 rows on the other side, and then yeah, at least another 3 rows on the other side, and because that sort of has come to a point a lot quicker than I was expecting. I was expecting another row at least. Now I do know on this side here that I am missing the 4 rings. So we'll put the 4 rings on. So at some point I managed to completely forget on one side or the other, whichever end I was working from, completely forgot to put these on in the weave, and spent an hour looking for them. Now it's going to be one of these things with these weaves now that I will always remember that, and I'll be able to spot it very easily when I've done it the next time. If only the other night I'd been able to see this straight away, it would have taken me that long as it's just done now to correct the problem and be able to move on instead of spending an hour, which is what I ended up spending before I really just at the end decided, you know what, I'm sure they're missing, let's put them in, which I did on the other end. And the instant I did that, it worked and I carried on. It was kind of like, why did I waste an hour? But such is the way. You sometimes get an idea in your mind that sort of sticks there, and you don't see the obvious, which is, they're missing, put them in. I was looking at them thinking, what am I missing? Why can't I see them? They have to be there. So what is it? How have they folded themselves back or whatever to enable them to hide? And just never crossed my mind, other than the general, I'm sure they're missing, but they can't be. So the assumption that I would have put them in was the bit that was holding me back. Come across that in a lot of cases, not just in this particular case, but in some of the stuff I do at work. It's the assumptions that people unconsciously make are the ones that trip you up, or them up. So that's one row. Been a little bit low on rings. I do have a few more in a pack, but I don't have very many bright aluminium ones left, which is what these are. Bright aluminium is aluminium which has been polished, usually tumble polished, but it hasn't been anodized. So they don't actually have that protective coating on. So anodizing doesn't have to change the colour, they often are, that's where the colours come from, but these haven't been anodized. Anodization as well is kind of a protective, it is a protective layer. It's like it's a layer that kind of stops them tarnishing. And I do say kind of because the chemistry behind it is an interesting one, shall we say. But the anodizing, the colouring is really dyeing the surface layers of the metal. So you're actually sort of embedding the colour into the surface. Which is why if you manage to scratch an anodized piece of metal, you'll show the underlying colour of the metal itself. Which is why with bracelets, anodized aluminium bracelets, or anything which is anodized with the niobium, etc., it's always a good idea to keep them in a scratch-free environment. So if you have diamond rings, for example, don't stick them loose in a box or a jewellery box with diamond rings, because the diamond is really sharp and really hard. It will scratch the anodized aluminium if there's any sorts of movement, and you'll then get sort of silver scratches on your jewellery. Actually, that happens to other things as well, not just anodized aluminium. Of course, you know, the diamond being relatively a hard thing and quite sharp, even though, you know, the sharpness is on the edge of the facets, but it is a sharp edge, and it will do things like scratch pearls, for example, or gold. So it's always a good idea to keep your gemstones separate to other jewellery, because the gemstone is the thing that will cause scratches on other things, and sort of, you know, scratches on other gemstones or scratches on things like gold and silver will have a tendency to make it look dull. This will be the third row. What we'll do then is measure it and adjust the number of rows, and put any more rows on if we need them. Before we bring it to a point. And then once we've got the point, sorry for the pun, we'll put a clasp on. Right, let's measure that. So lay it down flat, stretch it out a little bit. I'm almost finished. That's at 7 inches. How's that? So if I will just put an extra 2 rows on, which will bring this down to the point, which will be close enough. Oh no, maybe I'll do another couple of rows. It's not quite. The clasp with a couple of joining rings on it will be ½ an inch. So we'll add another couple, at least another couple of rows to this, I think. Yeah, another couple of rows, and then we'll bring it down to a point. Here I am looking at the number of rows, rings I've got left. I do have a few more, so I'm not overly worried about the few. But I am glad I don't need about another 10 rows or something like that, because then I really would be short on rings. Right. I am really looking forward to finishing this. Been doing it for quite a long time now. This was kind of a concept piece from the point of view of me just trying out how bright aluminium looked. So I was kind of just playing about with the rings in this particular case, but I think it's turned out quite nice. So this will be my, well, I'll measure it after I put this row on, and then I think it'll be long enough to bring down to a point. Not many rings left in the stack. Okay, let's measure and check. It's easier to do something about the wrong length now than when I finished it. So, what we are at. You're choking me. You are. So, it was less than 7 inches from the point. I've put 2 rows on, it's now 7.2. So, what do they face? 7.2. Ah, it's long enough. I'm not taking them off. That's fine. So we'll bring this down to a point. Not quite sure, I believe what I... well, I have to believe it's there. I'll explain that statement in a moment. Let me just get this closed. There we go. I have 1 ring left, that one. Out of all the ones that I got out at the start, I counted so many out, and then I've lost some, and just, they've pinged all over the place. I've just completed that bracelet, and I have 1 ring left. And it is 7.4 inches, so this will be actually just short of 8 inches, so it's a little bit long normally for a lady. Excuse me a moment, I'm just going to go off camera to get my clasps. It should be up here. It should be up here. They're stainless. They are sterling silver. Labelled so that I know which they are. Now then, I'll put an open clasp on one end. Now to do that I need to join them with a ring, which I happen to have there. And now that's a bit of a small ring to act as a I'm trying to think what you call it, but the thing that the clasp goes into. So I'll have to dig out actually a standard silver aluminium ring in order to act as the other end of the clasp. So let's open this. the point, which is there. Now unfortunately, well, until the sterling silver tarnishes a little, it will look really shiny compared to this metal, but so there, I now need a silver ring to go on the other side, but one that's not too big. Let's see what I've got. Now these are my test rings. These are the kind of rings I just have in different sizes, which I just use to sort of experiment with. So I tend to just use the silver and blue. The two colours go reasonably nicely together. So that's kind of what would be a good. They're going to be two. .4. Yeah, they're going to be too small. What's that going to be like? It's not too bad. Okay, we'll use that one. Close that ring up. So it's a nice tight closure. There we go. And an odd bright aluminium ring. Now then, strictly speaking, with that we want the lobster claw to lay flat on your arm. So what I can't do is I can't have this ring laid flat like this, because it will tend to twist the clasp. So what we've got to do is turn that through 90 degrees. Well, if I just put a single ring on, it won't go through 90 degrees. Because this one will be sat holding it. So I've got to put two of these rings on in order to cause that to stand up on its end. Now, it won't actually stand up on its end, but it will tend to. On the tend to is the bit that I'm looking for. I don't want the bracelet itself, when it's fastened, to be forcing this to sort of try and sit up on your skin. It just won't look very good. So in this case, these two rings here will be enough to allow it a little bit of leeway, shall we say. So let's put that on. Now the nice thing about the anodised aluminium is it's closer to the colour of the sterling silver. Actually, I probably do have a sterling silver ring around somewhere. Can't get hold of it. There we go. But being a similar colour, although it'll be slightly more shinier than the rest of it, it will be similar to the lobster claw. So let's fasten that through there, and there we have a completed bracelet with a nice, neat end fastening on it. And there we go. One Micromaille using 2.6mm rings. It won't actually fit me. Actually, it would. I could get that on. I'm not going to because it's really awkward to being this close to it. That's there we go. So it on me would be a relatively tight fit along that line. So it's a little, well, I don't know. It's a sort of fit that would be a watch band type fit. For a lady with a slimmer wrist or a gent with a slimmer wrist, that would be more of a loose fit. But there we go, a nice sparkly bright aluminium chainmaille bracelet, and we are done. So we've in this set of streams, if you like, of doing the chainmaille. Well, that's the sort of chainmaille streams that we've been doing. Have been those two there side by side. They are technically the same weave. This is just a circular version of that. Well, that's a flat version of that. This one is called round maille, and this one is called European 4-in-1. If I'd made this not quite as wide, I could roll that up into exactly that. So into exactly that shape. So it's kind of the same weave, but as you can see, once you roll it up, it looks completely different to that. Each of these contain over 500 rings, and if you've been watching the streams, you've seen every single ring opened and closed by me on stream. I don't think I've done any of it off stream. And whilst I normally make round maille in the round, as I did this one in the bigger rings, I wouldn't choose to do it in that way for these small micro rings again. I would do it in the way where you make a band like this and then wrap the band into a circle. Although quite how easy that is to do with round maille, I don't know. With these small rings, what I'd probably do is a little test band to see, but that would be for another time. So those two there are over 1,000 rings. Quite a lot of number. Doesn't look like there's 1,000 rings there, but I know how many I bought, and I know there's none left. And so 1,000 rings, and something like about I don't know, 12 to 15 hours on each of them, which is a fair amount of time. I mean, as a comparison, one of the ones you'll see popping up here at some point is a lovely rose pink cuff bracelet. It's a wide cuff bracelet, which is dragon scale bracelet. That took 10 hours, and it's wide. It's about 2 inches, inch and a half, something like that wide. And it fits me, so it's about 8 inches, and that was about 10 hours. And when you look at that and you look at this, now that was done with bigger rings, and when you look at this, and this took longer to do, and it looks simpler. Once you know how to do these things, they're all kind of simple, but you have to know how to do them. And that's obviously part of learning. As you would have seen a few streams ago, despite knowing how to do this, I did have a problem coming back to it after about 2 weeks away from it, and for some reason I'd made a mistake and I just could not start it again properly, despite knowing how to make this. Still, I am not going to start anything else tonight. So incidentally, this one that's just sitting around here, if you've not seen it, this one is candy cane, as it's called, but it's actually a spiral candy cane, because if you look at it, you can actually see there's a spiral in there. The sparkly bits help you to see it, but that's called a spiral candy cane. This was made out of stainless steel, and it's heavy. It's one of the heaviest. It's one of the heaviest bracelets I've ever made, actually. It's probably as heavy as the aforementioned dragon scale cuff, which is made out of aluminium. But that was one that we did a little while ago. So I'm not sure what to do on the next stream. I did mention I want to have a play about this. This is niobium. I've not worked niobium before, so these are test strings just to see how it is to work. And I'm considering what pattern I want to, what weave I'd like to use for those. I've had one or two suggestions, one of which I quite like, but I have to work out how it was made, and I'm kind of only half sure I know how it's made. I'm not actually sure I've got enough rings to make it, but I might ask for that at some other point, maybe just not at this instant in time. Or the other thing I might do is go back to pyrography. I may just do a little bit more of the dots, the cat dots, the magic dots, just to fill in a bit of time. Especially if I'm thinking, I don't know, we'll see. One of those three things, I think. Scraper board. Could do scraper board. Not sure. Can't think. I can't think of an image for scraper board at the moment. I don't want to just do one of the replicate something that I did with the airbrush, for example, which would be the very loose sort of train plane or canal boat. I kind of like to think of something else. I'm not particularly feeling inspirational in terms of scraper board. Nor in terms of the punchcraft at the moment, because unfortunately I probably need some more threads for punchcraft, and that's a little bit pricey. Although having said which, you go through a lot of, despite the fact I work on a 12-inch circular, that's 12-inch diameter hoop. When I do that, so it's a 12-inch diameter image, it goes through, I don't know, about 10-15 reels of thread equivalent, which is quite a lot. And usually there's a lot of sky, and I've run out of sky colour, and I haven't bought any more yet. So I could actually make some small ones. The other thing with punchcraft is what you've seen me work in the past, and what comes up on the right here with the two trains is quite a thick thread. But what I've got is I've got the needles that will allow me to work with what would be cotton, and so it's kind of scaling down. If you go from thread to cotton, you're kind of going from a 12-inch hoop, let's say, down to a 2 or a 3-inch circle type of idea. Same as if you go up to wool, then you're going up to book size, sort of 2 or 3 feet across, and whatever length you want. Actually, I could do that as well, but so many things you could do, and I'm kind of thinking maybe doing some Christmas round type Christmas decorations. But having said which, I don't have any fabric glue, which is what you need to stabilise it. If you're going to do it for Christmas decorations, you do 2, and you stick them back to back, and in sticking them back to back, you make your round, usually a round, you can make squares, whatever shape you like, but whatever shape you make, you then take the cut the backing material oversize, fold it in, and then stick the 2 things back to back to make your decoration. But that needs fabric glue, and I haven't got any. So I could make the pieces but not actually glue them together. So that's something I could do. I'd do some of that, a few Christmas decorations perhaps. That might be an idea. Interesting idea. I'll think about that. Rather than playing with the niobium rings, perhaps do some Christmas decorations, and then maybe think of pyrography. So, with that, time for the adverts. Mine first, and then the Twitch adverts. Mine are all about the things that are, well, most of the things that are down in the bottom blue box. There's the zeroganart.com, which is my website, which tells you a little bit about some of the crafts I have yet to keep adding to it. I keep adding occasionally the odd page to it, so I need to tell you a little bit more. I mean, there's so many things on there about pyrography, for example, and I think there's a little bit on there about carving. There's a little bit of information about some of the pieces, like Salute to Sunset, which is a pyrography piece, what the inspiration was behind that, or what the image is meant to represent. You've also got the social sites down there, of course, Facebook and Twitter, both of which are not the sort of thing you're going to get an update every day. Well, having said which, I tweet when I go live, and I do that every day, so I suppose technically you do get a tweet every day, at least one. But any sort of updates to do with the stream, etc., they go onto those, but it's not a tweet every 10 minutes or anything like that. I don't have that much spare time to do a tweet every 10 minutes. The other thing that's on there is youtube.com, which incidentally is doing some of the tweeting for me. But I'm uploading all the Twitch archive, so all the old Twitch broadcasts. I've got something like 200 hours up there already, almost 100 videos I think, and there's several hundred hours more to go. At least another 300 videos to go up, I think. It's amazing when you broadcast every day just how much video material you amass. I need my disk space back. So they're being uploaded there. So you can always go take a look at those if you want to see, I don't know, something like Ruth the Dragon that was carved. Took something like 30 or more hours, at least 30 hours to carve. It's all there. In real time. I will at the end of it, when she's finished, or he's finished, because Ruth is a male dragon, try and put a time lapse together to compress 30 or 40 hours of carving down into 20 minutes. But I do have a lot of video of that. I've got 18 months of daily broadcasting in total. So there's almost daily broadcasting. I didn't broadcast Christmas Day, for example, or Boxing Day. But as I've mentioned before, Wolfie, I have 3/4 of a terabyte of video, 1 gigabyte per hour, I think it is. So tonight's broadcast, for example, is about 2 gigabytes. It won't go up for a while yet, partly because it can't go up, well, at least tomorrow, because of the contract with Twitch. But I'm starting at the oldest stuff and bringing them forward. I'm uploading something like, well, I'm trying to upload as many as I can. I think there's been about 10 today. I just keep adding them as I get a few minutes to start an upload going. And then they're going on to YouTube. And I guess the final bit of my advertising before Twitch takes over is the 2 buttons that are up at the top right of the screen there above the stream. There's a follow me button if you want to see more of whatever. Chainmail, pyrography, punchcrafts, carving, glass engraving, airbrushing, magic dots, jewellery making, and anything else that I can't actually remember at the moment, because there's so many things that we do on stream that I always have a problem remembering what they all are. If you'd like to be notified when I go live, see me on your sort of favourites page or following page, then click the follow button. And I'd be really grateful if you'd at least consider thinking about the subscription button that's there as well, and help contribute towards the stream. The subscriptions will go towards buying the materials that get used for broadcasting. So whether that be wood for the pyrography, or whether it's engraving bits to do glass engraving, that's the kind of thing it gets spent on. Because unfortunately these things cost money. Wood, for example, doesn't grow on trees. It's actually good quality wood for pyrography purposes. Isn't actually cheap, or it isn't actually even that easy to find. But anyway, with that, I'm going to hand you over to the usual Twitch broadcast. It's going to come when I close the stream down, which I'm going to start to do in a moment. If you'd like to see me, I should be on again tomorrow night from somewhere between 7. I'll start somewhere between 7 PM and 8 PM GMT. That's 1900 to 2000 hours, and go on for 1 to 2 hours, depending on what we're doing, how it goes, and these sorts of things. So hopefully I'll see you then. You've already kicked the bell. Okay. By the way, I went to that stream and challenged him to do. Oh, okay. Well, let's have a good night, Wolfie. Thank you very much for coming to the stream as well. It's nice to see you. And good luck with the world domination. And for everybody else, I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow night's stream. And bye for now.